Hey everyone. So we need to talk about what's happening with XRP right now, because honestly, it's absolutely wild. We're not just seeing records being broken left and right, we're witnessing some truly mind-blowing milestones that are worth getting excited about. The CME Group bombshell. Let's dive right into the big news. CME Group just dropped their 4-month recap on XRP futures, and guys, the numbers are insane. We're talking about hitting major milestones here, and the driving force? Pure demand for trusted, regulated crypto products. The market is hungry for this stuff. Here's where it gets really interesting. In just 4 months, we saw 397,000 contracts traded through XRP and micro-XRP futures. But wait, it gets better. We're looking at $18.3 billion in notional volume. The average daily volume was sitting pretty at around $213 million. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to 6 billion XRP moving around. Here's the kicker. Now, here's what I really want you to understand, and this is crucial. These are futures positions, not spot positions. I'm emphasizing this because so many people are sleeping on what spot-based ETFs are going to bring to the table. Think about it this way. If futures contracts are generating this kind of momentum and demand, what do you think happens when we get full spot-based products? We're talking about potential volume that could be double, triple, maybe even quadruple what we're seeing now. And no, I'm not being overly bullish here. I'm just connecting the dots. That said, let's be real for a moment. I don't think the space is quite ready for full spot-based XRP ETFs yet. I'm talking about the real deal here, not the Rex Osprey one we have now, which is 80% weighted. The mXRP game changer. But wait, there's more. We got some massive updates from Axler that are honestly pretty exciting. They're introducing mXRP, and this is a big deal, a new yield-bearing liquid stake token that's about to kickstart DeFi on the XRP ledger. We're talking about unlocking up to 10% APY for XRP holders. Yeah, you heard that right. Here's the full breakdown. This liquid-staked, yield-bearing XRP token is being issued by Midas RWA under an EU-approved prospectus. They're deploying delta-neutral strategies through trusted asset managers like Hyperrhythm, which adapt to market conditions to offer solid risk-adjusted XRP yields. The best part? It's fully composable with DeFi protocols across the board. We're talking Stroke Finance, XP Market, Anodized Finance, the whole ecosystem. They're targeting up to 10% APY denominated in XRP. Now, there's a catch. It's not available to folks in the US, UK, and some other restricted jurisdictions, but I have a feeling that might change down the road. Following the Ethereum blueprint, here's what's really smart about this approach. They're basically following Ethereum's playbook. Remember how liquid stake tokens like STETH completely transformed Ethereum into the backbone of DeFi? They powered lending, trading, new stablecoins, and unlocked billions in fresh liquidity. Today, LSTs on Ethereum account for roughly $60 billion plus in total value locked, with millions in daily on-chain trading volume. mXRP is positioned to be that same catalyst for the XRP ledger, and honestly, that's huge for unlocking the ledger's potential. The numbers don't lie. And get this, the momentum is already crazy. In less than 48 hours, mXRP became a top pool on the XRP ledger. Tyler from XRP shared that the mXRP XRP pool climbed to become the 5th largest on the entire XRP ledger in under 2 days. Real-world assets are starting to explode on the XRP ledger, and mXRP is showing us just how big this thing can get.
The whale activity. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Charlie Rosenthal from Axler dropped another bombshell. A whale just minted 3 million mXRP valued at $8.85 million. And here's the kicker. The vault is now at 96% capacity. This all happened in an incredibly short amount of time. This kind of whale activity and rapid adoption tells us something important. The smart money is paying attention, and they're moving fast. When you see this level of institutional and high net worth interest combined with the retail excitement, you know something big is brewing in the XRP ecosystem. The demand is absolutely insane. What we're seeing here tells us something huge. There's absolutely crazy demand for these types of products. And here's what's important to understand. This isn't an ETF we're talking about. This isn't a futures contract either. These are yield-bearing opportunities around XRP. And trust me, there's always going to be intense demand for opportunities like this. I genuinely believe this is only going to continue heating up around the XRP ledger as we see more and more products launching. Flare jumps into the action. Speaking of new launches, Flare just made a massive announcement. They said, for over a decade, XRP has powered fast and efficient settlement at scale. FXRP on Flare extends that strength with composability, opening new growth opportunities. XRP is collateral, liquidity, and yield in DeFi. This is FXRP. It's very similar to what we're seeing with Axler, but obviously with its own twist. F assets are now live on the XRP ledger, and honestly, the timing couldn't be more perfect. Everything is happening at once. When I look at the momentum here, when I think about everything that's happening around XRP right now, DeFi is becoming a reality. But here's the thing, it's not just DeFi. It's literally everything happening all at once. We're seeing futures, ETFs, ETPS, DEFI, institutional DEFI, the stablecoin boom, the tokenization boom. It's all converging. Big banks are starting to move in, Ripple is expanding the XRP market, and honestly, almost everything is happening at the perfect moment. Let's talk about supply shock. Now, I've talked about supply shocks for XRP before, and listen, I get it. Sometimes things can sound too good to be true, but all of these developments we're discussing, they're all going to lead to XRP becoming extremely valuable. Here's the reality check, though. No, it won't happen in 24 hours. No, it won't happen in 7 days. It won't even happen in 30 days or 365 days. That's right. It will take longer than a year, but here's what I want you to understand. All of this is just the beginning. We have an incredible journey ahead of us, and this path is going to lead to XRP becoming extremely valuable. Why? Because all of these are demand-related products. The supply shock math. I saw a post from 24 Hours Crypto the other day that really broke this down perfectly. I even quoted it and said that for anyone doubting an XRP supply shock will happen at some point, they need to read this. I personally think it's inevitable, especially with institutional adoption heating up like this. Here's the breakdown that most people don't realize. There's actually very little XRP left available. Between Ripple's escrow and their liquidity holdings, we're talking about over 40% of the total supply. 37.3 billion XRP in Ripple escrow, 3.5 billion from Ripple's liquid holdings, 2.3 billion from Chris Larsen, 1.3 billion from Arthur Brito. That's nearly 44.4% of the entire supply already accounted for. The institutional players are just getting started. And then you have to look at the institutional players who are already in the game. Purpose ETF holds 29.6 million XRP. That's $89 million at $3. 3IQ holds another 45 million XRP. That's $137 million at $3. But here's the kicker. These are relatively small firms, not the trillion-dollar giants we know are coming. Retail investors maybe hold 15% of the supply at best. Just imagine what happens when JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Goldman Sachs enter the picture. We're talking about billions more XRP vanishing into cold storage forever. For reference, XRP is sitting at $2.91 right now. Bookmark this moment because we'll be coming back to requote this. The big picture nobody's talking about. When you really think about this, there are going to be massive players moving into XRP, treasury companies, institutional players, the whole 9 yards. But even just the lockups from retail alone around products like DeFi and yield-bearing opportunities are going to tie up a significant amount of XRP. I honestly don't think people realize just how much demand there is for XRP right now. The perfect storm is brewing, and we're right at the beginning of something massive. I've been calling this for months. And you know what? This is something I've been spotlighting for quite some time, especially as we're starting to see institutional DeFi become a reality on the XRP ledger. This isn't just wishful thinking anymore, it's actually happening. RippleXDev just posted about this on the 22nd, and their message was crystal clear. Institutional DeFi has solidified its position as the trusted open source settlement layer for global institutional players. The next phase of the roadmap starts now. The numbers don't lie. Let me break down what's been happening over the past year because these milestones are absolutely mind-blowing. The XRP ledger has broken into the top 10 chains for real-world asset tokenization. We also hit our first month with over $1 billion in stablecoin volume. It's crystal clear we're entering a completely new phase as lending, compliance, programmability, and tokenization are all converging at once. This is the perfect storm we've been waiting for. What's already live and working. The updated institutional DeFi roadmap for the XRP ledger shows us exactly where we stand. And honestly, what's already live is impressive. Credentials tied to DIDs for verified KYC and regulatory permissions. Deep freeze capabilities to halt illicit transfers from flagged accounts. Simulate features for risk-free transaction testing. Token escrow and AMM. Upgrades specifically designed for institutional settlement. These aren't theoretical features, they're live and working right now. The game-changing update's coming. But here's where it gets really exciting. Next on the roadmap, multi-purpose tokens. MPTs, to accommodate assets natively. We've talked about MPTS before, and this is going to be a massive game changer for tokenized assets. native lending protocol in XRP Ledger v3.0.0 to enable low-cost, compliant credit. This lending protocol is going to be absolutely huge because lending and borrowing consistently rank as one of the top categories for total value locked in the entire DeFi space. Zero-knowledge proofs to bring privacy with auditability specifically for institutional markets. This solves one of the biggest concerns institutions have had about operating on-chain. The scale of this transformation, and here's what really gets me excited. They're introducing stablecoins, RWAS, lending, compliance, tooling, and privacy directly at the protocol level at global scale. That's a formidable task, but the XRP Ledger's developer base and community have consistently proven they can deliver. This is all being built to create institutional DeFi at scale. We're talking about upgrading something that was already so disruptive that many thought it couldn't improve from this point forward. 2025, the year everything changes. And guess what? 2025 is proving that the XRP Ledger is undergoing one of the largest upgrades in its history. We're talking about native smart contracts, native lending pools, and all these institutional DeFi features coming online. It's honestly crazy that this is all happening right now, and the timing couldn't be more perfect. When you combine this institutional infrastructure with the demand we're seeing from products like mXRP and FXRP, plus the supply dynamics we just discussed, we're looking at a convergence that's going to be absolutely explosive. This goes way beyond billions. We're talking trillions. I'm genuinely excited about this because when we talk about tokenization and credit on-chain, we're enabling absolutely massive use cases. These aren't just opportunities that institutional players want to tap into. Enterprises are going to be all over this too. And here's what people need to understand. This isn't your typical billion-dollar use case. No way. We're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars in potential use cases. This is a completely different league. The big players are already lining up. And guess what? We already have major players lined up and ready to go. Just look at the recent partnership with Securitize, the one backed by BlackRock and Morgan Stanley. This entire partnership is built around tokenization. And that's not all. Less than a week ago, DBS Bank and Franklin Templeton announced their partnership. What was that based on? You guessed it, tokenization. These types of strategic moves are happening consistently now. This isn't random. There's a clear pattern emerging. The perfect storm is brewing. When we combine all of this institutional movement with the futures markets, the upcoming ETFs, the DeFi expansion that includes retail participation, and then we look at the supply constraints we discussed, it becomes crystal clear. We're looking at what's going to be a utility-based network effect, something we honestly haven't seen in this space before. But we can compare it to the Bitcoin network effect to understand the potential. Bitcoin versus XRP, a completely different game. The Bitcoin network effect was pretty straightforward. It was simply retail buying and holding. Sure, there was trading involved, but for the most part, it came down to basic supply and demand dynamics. But with XRP, this is going to be completely different. You're going to see XRP being bought and held by retail, locked away in institutional treasuries, locked in liquidity pools for DeFi, held in escrow systems, accumulated by institutional players for utility purposes. The math is simple and brutal. Here's the bottom line, that there's simply not enough XRP to go around. When you look at all these different demand sources competing for a limited supply, the math becomes pretty brutal. The price has to rise drastically. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when and how much. XRP is going to be extremely expensive. I am absolutely confident about that statement. And it all comes down to the most fundamental principle in economics: supply and demand. When utility meets scarcity at this scale, with institutional adoption, DeFi growth, and retail participation all happening simultaneously, we're looking at price discovery that's going to shock a lot of people. Thanks for watching. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive into what's happening with XRP right now. If you found this valuable, definitely smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of these crucial updates. The XRP ecosystem is moving fast, and there's going to be a lot more exciting developments coming. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.